Howdy, howdy, y'all. I'm Kurtis Sunset.
And I'm Leah Halston. And this is Weathering Rainbows.
Well, howdy, Miss Halston.
Let's go for a walk on the Rainbow Trail.
Oh no, the last time you forgot the umbrellas and got us into a whole heap of trouble.
I won't forget this time. Let's go. Oh my, those sirens. I feel stormy weather moving in.
Girl, that ain't men it's raining. That's sequins and stones.
And we ain't got no umbrella. We better run. We made it.
And I'm glad we had each other to weather the rainbows. Howdy, y'all, and welcome back to Weathering Rainbows. I'm your host, Kurtis Sunset, and this is your other host,
Leah Halston.
and we are excited to be back. We've got a special interview with our youngest guest yet. Marcus Macchi is a transgender individual that helped fight I wouldn't say fight, but helped change the graduation gowns at his school. So
nice.
kind of a little, advice from a young person.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
But first, we still have some pride questions that we've got to answer. This is going to be our last round of this. We did pull the best ones that we felt were the best. And we're going to answer 4 on this show. So the first one that was submitted, have you ever had feelings for your best friend? I'm going to let you kick this one off.
Well, I have many best friends, and I have some good friends, and I have some good Judys. It's hard because one of my good Judys listening to this podcast, but I don't think it's a secret that he knows that I kind of liked him because that's how our friendship started, with me liking him and us meeting at the quarry and stuff. But then we became really good friends. So, and it's not weird at all. It's not weird at all because we laugh and we talk about it. And so, but the weird thing is, about 2 years ago, what is that? There's something that happens here in August. The
chocolate festival. Yeah,
it's something chocolate, and it's Simone DJs, and I perform. And there was a guy I met there. He works one of the candy companies. And so we ended up exchanging numbers there and talking. And like the first night he came over for a date, I was like, this may sound weird, but you look like one of my really, really good friends. And I was like, he was like, is that a good thing? I was like, it's a good thing because I kind of like had a crush on him, but we're really good friends now. But like, sex was so good.
Ooh. Okay.
But
so
Judy,
you took it a step further with your friend.
I know. But Judy, if you're listening to this, you already know because my Judy do listen to this.
Yeah.
But he knows that, you know,
I think that's
in the beginning.
I think that's pretty normal. Like I think we all you're gonna always wonder and have feelings for your friends. And I think that's because even the ones that you are just platonically involved with, there's no romance or anything. You always just have these what ifs in the back of your mind. Like, what if this was meant to go further or, but for me, I am a hardcore Libra. So for me, within the first 5 minutes of meeting somebody, I have already organize them into their compartment. This person could be a really good friend. This person could be a hookup. This person could be potential relationship type material. But I don't think that is a Libra trait. So I wish I had the ability to just grow relationship like with people just because I'm friends with them, you know?
Yeah. But what, okay, so let's talk about you. So your friends and your best friends, like many, like in the future, what if something transpired? Like you become so good friends and then down the line, you'll both figure like, maybe this is the right person for me, you know?
Like every movie that's ever existed on Hallmark. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah. Like, yeah. Well, I always get really mad at any movies that do the whole like, well, the gay best friends ended up in a relationship. And the reason why I don't like that is because it's the common stereotype that like, oh, here's the gay, they got to get together, you know, like that doesn't happen in real life. Like there are gay friends. Like I have, you know, probably I would say 15 super close gay friends that I've never slept with. Like never. And it's not going to happen because I'm such good friends with them. They're like brothers and sisters, you know?
Yeah.
So I think those are the ones. Now, similar to your experience, I think you can have situations where like a hookup leads to a friendship, like a really good friendship that you just kind of stop doing sexual.
Okay, so I want to clarify. Me and my Judy never hooked up. We never hooked up. We slept in the same bed and cuddled. We never hooked up. Hooked up. No.
I think that's normal. I think a lot of best friends do that.
We've never hooked up. And I think that's what makes our friendship golden and strong because like you know, we have that respect for each other, you know.
Yeah.
It's no, I got to clarify. Yeah, we never hooked up. So but I'm just saying, like, you know, they always say you have to be friends before you become lovers. Like in that case, because isn't there like a Netflix movie that's the guy's parents is trying to hook him up with his best friend. I was saying something about that on Netflix. I don't like watching those sappy movies like that because, like you said, it's not real. Like you know. It don't happen like that because I want a fairy tale. I want to be in Nordstrom's rack and I look up and he look up and we lock eyes and next thing you know we get married. Like you know,
have your little moment. Yeah. Your meet cute is what they call them. The meet cutes. So
that's why I like watching horror movies because I can't sit up here and watch the Cinderellas and the Snow Whites and stuff and Marry Me and all this stuff because that shit is not real. I want to watch something horror.
If you can survive an axe killer, you might be in love. It might happen. So. Oh goodness! All right. Well, that was a great question. A random question.
It was a really good question. Lord, my Judy gonna text me and be like, "What was that about?"
Well, let's go to a softer question. What's your favorite drink?
Did they specify alcohol?
They did not. They did not. So
okay, so I'm gonna just go. Okay, forest juice. I like. I love orange juice and I love the cranberry and I think it's cranberry and grape mix. Yeah, that's juice. Soda. I love me a good Dr. Pepper. I love a Sprite. When I was drinking alcohol, we're gonna emphasize when I was drinking alcohol because I'm 3 weeks with no alcohol. Yes. Well, by the time this air, it'll be a little bit.
You'll almost be done.
Yeah. I pretty much I'll drink anything, honestly. Tequila, vodka. Vodka and cranberry is one of my favorites. So, and I love beer and wine.
I loved mojitos. Like that just was like that nice drink for me, like on the beach type of feeling. I always liked amaretto sours, so I was always like more fruity type of drinks, you know.
I feel like I wasn't at the booth. So I feel like some of these questions, people are trying to get to know you so they'll know what to buy.
Well, if you really want to impress me, I like peach LaCroix. That's what I like. LaCroix drinks. Everybody thinks they're disgusting, but that's what I like.
I feel like that's a question. That's a personal question. Somebody's trying to get to know you. Like, oh, what do you like to drink?
ain't nobody ever try like. They know I'm like the more masculine one in most of my relationships, so nobody ever buys me drinks. So, anyway,
it's nice when somebody do. Sometimes you gotta you have to let people. I feel like you won't let nobody do it because somebody be like, you be like, no, I got it. Sometimes you have to let people buy you a drink.
Oh yeah.
Or pay for a movie.
On occasion,
or pay for dinner. I feel like you're the first one to grab to check when you go out to eat.
Always, yeah. That's been ever since I was like 18. I'm always the one that pays the bill. That's just,
oh no,
I don't know. That's one of those rural upbringing like things. I don't know. Let's go to this question. This one is tough. What is an early gay experience that you would never tell? And that's pretty broad, so that's a tough one.
I mean, for me, if you've listened to some of the podcasts, like I grew up in a house full of military men. They were my uncles, and they used to walk around the house naked, and I sure was looking. So that's when I knew. I was like, oh, what is that swinging? So me growing up in a house full of military men, which were my uncles, like and they didn't care. Like their motto was, we're all men. So I remember one of my aunties that was living in the house with us. One of my uncles like just walked out the room and she was like, put a robe on, and he was like, for what? He was like, we're all men. We men. He got what I got what he got. Who cares? And I'm like, that mentality. Wow. And I'm sitting there like, wow, that's big.
This is yeah. I can see that.
And I was like 6, 7, 8, so I was like, wow,
Yeah.
But
for me, like all of my early gay experiences, like I didn't tell anyone because I couldn't for the longest time, So like, I think for me, like there was so much like hardcore crushing on like straight guys and stuff, and like doing things like, they walk past you in class and you like put your hand on their back, but like, like little things like that, I think were like little first gay experiences that you don't really talk about because like you feel weird that you did them. But in all honesty, it was because of your own safety. Like you had to do those kind of things and get that feeling. I don't know.
So your coming up was like the movie Brokeback Mountain. Like secretly, because Brokeback Mountain was hot. Like those kind of situations, like not knowing, and then it happened, and it's like, okay, fuck, it happened. What did we do?
The denial. Yeah. And then the denial. And then it's like you go repent at church on Sunday. And no, that's very similar, I think, to a lot of rural upbringings. And I think that's why it's so hard to find relationship material in rural areas, because like they grow up in that environment to where it's just not safe. So I'm hoping that changes in the future. While I was talking, I thought of one gay experience that I would never tell. And honestly, I've only ever told one person, and I'm still not going to tell it because the first time people are ever going to get to hear this story is when my book comes out.
Yeah, but
wow. So I do talk about this story, and I will tell you that it involves cherry chapstick, and that is all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. And it wasn't kissing a girl and liking it. I can promise you that. So wait for the book. All right. Our final question before we kick it over to our interview. Martin asks a very important question, I think. And that is, what are you most proud of? Some of these questions were very like sincere. Some of the questions were super inappropriate, but we're always inappropriate on this show. So like, I didn't feel like addressing them,
I am, honey.
Like these were the questions that really just rose. And I was like, these are great questions. So
I think I'll take that first. I think what I'm most proud of is like coming up, from a dysfunctional family and parents that didn't teach me about credit and financial and stuff. And I think where I'm at in life right now and who the person I've become is make that where I stand with being proud with myself.
Yeah. I think for me, like, that's very similar. But it's like the personal growth. But for me, like, I know, like, I've achieved a lot in my life, and I know you've achieved a lot, in your life in terms of just winning things and, things that people often are like proud. That's something you should be proud of.
Yeah.
But for me as an achiever, like, I could never a lot of times like feel pride even winning those things because it was just like expected of me.
Yeah.
But the thing that I'm most proud of now is like my like emotional intelligence growth.
Yeah.
And I think like that comes from, being raised in a rural area. You don't have access to education that a lot of people do. And like, so being able to step out of a rural area and learn everything that I needed to know about like relationships and how to, deal with a breakup and stuff like that. Cause I'll be honest, my first like few breakups were horrible, led me down some horrible paths, and it was partly because like I wasn't emotionally mature enough to be in a relationship.
Yeah.
So like, I think the past, like, especially past like 5 years for me has been tremendous growth, just with the emotions. So that would probably be what I'm most proud of right now.
Yeah.
So, well, those were great questions.
They were really great. I enjoyed all the questions.
We will definitely allow people to ask some questions again. We might start doing that some on our Instagram account. Do some of those submit anonymous questions and we'll answer them on the show. Fun things. Yay.
We'll take some naughty ones too. I mean, I don't care.
Yeah. It would not be our first on this show.
Honey, I've told y'all a lot on this show.
Yeah.
The graveyard scene.
My mother watches this show and I've still revealed far too much about myself. Like, she knows far too much about me and things that I have done. So, but on that note, we will definitely answer more of your questions in the future.
Yes.
But for now, let's kick it over to the interview with Marcus Macchi. Howdy, y'all, and welcome back to the interview portion of Weathering Rainbows podcast, where we get to interview cool people out there doing amazing things for the LGBTQ plus community. Today, we have a pretty awesome guest. It's our youngest guest yet. This is Marcus Macchi, and Marcus has already implemented some change that we have followed from day one whenever he first started trying to get this change at his high school. And so we're going to hear a little bit about this story, and I am looking forward to Marcus teaching a lot of young folk how to implement that kind of change. So Marcus, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm 18, happy to be the youngest guest so far. I just graduated high school from a Catholic high school, and being someone who's transgender, that was really difficult. I've gone to Catholic school my whole life, so it's been a tough journey, and I'm looking forward to the next chapter in my life.
So what was that like? You're obviously, at what age did you start realizing that you were transgender?
As early as 4. I just feel like I've always known, but growing up Catholic, my parents have never shown anything to be homophobic, transphobic, anything. But when you grow up around the Catholic Church, there's just that inner stigma and everything around you. So I didn't come out until I was a freshman in high school. So at an all-girls high school at that point, because I was really repressing everything. And then I ended up transferring to a co-ed one after my freshman year.
Wow. Yeah. So how did that talk with your parents go? Obviously, this is your freshman year and you're in an all-girls school. So how did that go?
Yeah. So I came out to my mom first, and that was a really, I was so random. I wasn't expecting to come out. It just kind of happened. And it was like a short conversation that carried into the next day because it was like midnight, and she's like, I have work tomorrow. I can't, you know. So I did that. Told my dad, and then slowly started telling the rest of the family. But it was hard because it was January of my freshman year, so I still had a couple months left. I'm not going to transfer in the middle because that would have been really hard. And my plan was to stay another year at that school. And then I think it was when there was like 1 or 2 weeks left of school, I ended up telling my mom, like, I need to leave. I can't, be in an all girls school anymore. And I had a lot of other drama going on that year with some people. So I decided, let's transfer. And it happened in like the last couple weeks that it happened. And then I ended up going to a school right next to my house, the school my dad went to, my aunt went to, so it was a family school. But it was, yeah, it was a lot, but they were definitely just awesome.
That's great.
About everything. I'm really lucky to have the parents that I do.
That is definitely true. That's amazing that you've got parents like that are supportive. Mm-hmm. And I believe your dad was the one that went to the Harry Styles concert, right? Was it?
No, actually, I went with one of my best friends.
Okay.
My dad's the one that scored me the tickets.
There we go.
He's in the restaurant and he's in the restaurant industry, so he's got connections everywhere. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So let's tell a little bit about that story, because I always tell people sometimes the people we bring on our show are individuals we have randomly met on what I call the Rainbow Trail. And I know that this is a little fun story. You met our co-producer, Amy. Do you want to tell a little bit about that?
Oh my gosh, so the Harry Styles concert was back in September, and it was the first concert I had gone to in years. Like, even before COVID, I had been to a concert in forever. Yeah. So I was so excited. I had gotten those tickets like a week or two before COVID hit. So I had waited over like a year for this concert, almost 2 years. And my dad got me the tickets. It was a huge deal. I was going with one of my best friends. We get there and we're like, oh, we've got 2 open seats next to us. Hopefully no one comes so we can like be all like, we can dance and everything. And here comes Amy and her friend who's got kids down in the pit. And I would not have had it any other way. It was so fun, that entire concert, just talking about every single song that came on. And it was a great experience just to be at a Harry Styles concert, but to be around so many people that are just accepting of everything, because that's Harry's fan base.
Oh yeah.
And then Amy being next to me, we were just talking throughout the whole thing. Got a selfie in the middle of one of the songs. I'm like, I don't really know who you are, but sure, let's take a photo. It was, that was really awesome.
That is our co-producer. She makes friends wherever she goes. So I'm sure she was dancing in her kitchen to Harry Styles for at least 2 weeks prior to that, and a bunch of other stuff. So, and you'll also be really excited to know that my Kentuckiana Pride look this year was inspired by Harry Styles. So his little red cherry outfit, you're going to see something similar.
Okay.
So
I'm looking forward to that.
So I want to talk about the reason we brought you on the show. Obviously, you are only 18, but you brought forth a change in policy that had gone back as far as the school really was in existence. So can you talk about the graduation and what led up to this policy change?
Yeah, so at my school, it has been since probably, I'm pretty sure it was there when my dad was there, and that was a long time, not to date my dad. But the school's been open for over 70 years, and it's been the same policy for probably that long. And it's where the girls wear white and the boys wear red. And that was something that I didn't really know until my junior year. And I found out because one of my really good friends, who's a year older than me, he graduated last year, and he had ordered a red robe. He's also trans, and he paid for a red robe, but they gave him a white one.
Wow.
And so my friend Megan, who was at the Harry Styles concert, her brother had graduated the year before and had his red robe. So gave it to my friend who was graduating.
Wow.
And he showed up in it, and he got yelled at in front of the entire school at the cathedral here in St. Louis. And
that's ridiculous.
It was a really big scene, and they almost didn't let him walk, but it was really awesome. That the class before me was full of really awesome people that were so supportive, and they all rallied behind him out inside of church, and it was really awesome to see that. But after that happened, that was spread around, and they were like, if this ever happens again, if they show up in the wrong robe, they won't be able to walk at graduation. So, walk up, get your diploma, get your photo taken. And so that's when I started getting really nervous, because I obviously really wanted to be able to walk up the aisle at my graduation, which I've been working towards my whole life.
Yeah.
And so it started all the way back before October. I wrote up my petition. I got all of this research done. I asked around different people from the school, their opinions, just to see, if people would actually sign it. And so once I finally got the draft finished, I revised it, and I was like, okay, I need to take more than one approach to this. And that was an approach of, it's not just a trans issue to where, anyone should be able to wear the same color. But I found out from one of my teachers that the reason that the color white was for the girls was to symbolize virginity and purity.
Right.
Yeah. So it's like, why are you holding the girls to that standard and not the guys? Because it takes two people to be pure, So I put that into my thing to help get more people to sign. And then I also just threw in the fact, I know that a lot of my friends didn't want to wear white because they wouldn't be able to wear a fun color under because it's really see-through.
Yeah.
So I just threw that in. But I put a lot of statistics just about the effect of not being supported in your school and what that does to people. And I made sure I cited all my sources from, I followed everything all of my English teachers have taught me with writing a good argumentative essay. And I presented it to my principal, vice principal, and the president of my school. And I had met one-on-one with my principal about it, talked it over, and that was in October. And then it was handed over to the president of my school, who then didn't reach out to me until a month before my graduation.
Wow.
And then so I went from October all the way till late April thinking I'm not even going to walk at my graduation. And I decided if I can't, I'm just not going to go to my graduation. I'll pick up my diploma and I'll celebrate with my family at home. And I didn't want that to be the case, but I'm not going to show up to my graduation wearing something that I shouldn't have to.
Yeah.
So I finally got a response back after I had sent numerous emails, and then my mom had to get involved, and she's not one to mess with. And so we all went. Yeah, she was awesome. We all went and sat down to talk about it at school in the morning. So if it went poorly, I would have had to stay at school the rest of the day, and that would have not been fun. And we go there, and they have a priest there and everything. It's like, oh gosh, they're gonna try to I don't know what they're gonna do, but I was worried about that. And the way that they started off, the president of my school goes, "We just want you to know that we do care about you here." I was like, that's not off to a good start.
Yeah.
But then he said that they were gonna let me wear the red robe, and then he was rambling, and then my principal, who I hadn't really seen eye to eye with the 2 years that she worked there, she came there last year. She said some things that really put us on a good path to leave the school. With, and she told us that they are going to be completely revising the whole robe situation from now on.
It's incredible.
And figuring out what it's going to look like. So either everyone's going to wear one color, or you just get to pick whatever you want to wear. And they're just trying to find ways that they can go about being supportive of everyone, while still following the guidelines that they have to, being a Catholic school.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really awesome. And it was just, I mean, I had over 600 signatures online from people across the world, because it reached other countries, which I was really surprised about.
Yeah.
And then multiple different states. And then I had, I think, 200 signatures from the 300 kids at my school. And it was just, I'm just really glad that it happened, because I know that that's just going to help so many kids, because there was a lot of kids at my school that just don't feel supported. And even if it's a red robe that can help a kid, that was huge. That was huge for me.
Let's talk about that. I know you've got a couple of signatures sitting with you on camera, and I know I wrote a response to that. And a lot of people would look at this as it's just the color of a robe, and especially people that don't understand how that would have affected you if you would have been forced to wear a white robe, something that's not truly you. It's not who you are. And so can you kind of go into, what that truly meant to you to be able to wear that red robe?
Yeah. So I was really fortunate growing up that I was always able to wear whatever I wanted. My mom really liked that I liked more masculine clothes, because it meant I just wore my brother's hand-me-downs.
That's awesome.
So it saved her a bunch of money. In elementary school, I wore the boys' uniform, and then in 5th grade, I had to wear the girls' uniform one day. One day I had to wear it because we were doing something where all the girls had to look the same and all the boys had to look the same. So keep in mind, this is years before I came out. And I told my mom, I'm not going to wear that.
Wow.
I'm not wearing the girls' uniform. And she, not knowing anything, went up to the school and she talked with them and begged them to not have me wear it. And I had to wear it. It was horrible. I think I wore it for a total of 2 hours, and then I went home, played with a friend for a bit, and then cried myself to sleep over wearing something for 2 hours.
Wow.
So,
and this was in fifth grade?
That was 5th grade.
Wow.
And that was for something that, isn't celebrating a big milestone. That was for something at a church. We had to all say the rosary or something.
Wow.
It was nothing serious. So knowing how upset I got over that when I found out about this policy, I cried so much with it, and it was really frustrating because it's not who I am. I'm not a girl. Why should I have to wear something that only the girls wear?
Right.
And it just took me back to 5th grade. But being a senior in high school, you can't have your mom fight all your battles. And so I think for me, it not only meant a lot to wear the red robe, but that I got there, fighting for myself and not having other people fight my battles. That was something that really meant a lot to me, is that I pushed so hard for it, and I just don't know what I would have done.
Yeah.
Especially because my freshman year, there was only one uniform to wear at the all-girls school, and it was a skirt, and I was so deep in the closet until I came out, and I had to put on this face every day that I was okay, and so I had just had so much bad memories of having to wear things that I didn't identify with, that I just couldn't.
Right.
And I feel like it was destroying me mentally.
Yeah. I can't.
Yeah.
I think one thing that I would like to point out to our viewers is a lot of times it's really hard to put yourself in other people's shoes. And just as you're talking about this, I'm trying to think about okay, what if I had gone 18 years of my life? Because, I identify as the gender that I was born as. But what if I had, even identifying as a male all this time, if they had told me that I had to wear a dress to graduation, and out of nowhere, how would that have made me feel when it comes to just all of a sudden one day, I've lived my life this way for 18 years, and then one day they're telling me that I have to make a public appearance as something that I am not.
Yeah.
So, that to me just kind of, it brings that chill factor of, you've lived your whole life this way. And for them to force these policies on you is just, it's traumatizing. So I appreciate that what you've gone through and the burdens that you have like had to deal with to make that policy go away for those future kids. Because I mean, you don't, you know, there's so many kids that are from you down. I mean, you've named 2 that were prior to you that, you know, that dealt with this. So the amount of change that you made just in one school is incredible. And I want you to realize that even though you're 18, that is huge, you know, for ongoing. So one thing we do on this show is we do an advice section, basically a do's and don'ts. Now I know you're 18, but you're already making some big impacts. So I like to hear 18s give advice because a lot of times they teach me more than the people my own age. So, so what advice do you have for us?
So I'm going to be talking, my advice is about being anything really LGBT while in school. And I'll be doing some good do's and don'ts. My first piece of advice is when I first came to my new school, I was like, I have no idea what teachers are going to be supportive of me, especially being in a Catholic establishment. So originally, I emailed all of the teachers I had saying, just letting you know, I go by my last name. Because all my life I've gone by my last name. It was like a nickname all throughout grade school because of sports. There were a lot of kids on my team that had the same legal name that I had and everything like that. So I just let them know, like, okay, I go by this. And all of them were fine with that. Like, okay, you know, that's fine. And I let that go for about a month. And then I asked around. So my first piece of advice is to ask around and see who your allies are in school. Because even in the Catholic school, I had way more supportive teachers than unsupportive teachers. It was awesome. And I would just slowly tell them. And it was awesome because I had this place to land if I was having a rough day, especially with everything going on this past year. My teachers couldn't say support publicly or else they'd lose their job, which is kind of stupid. But if I needed someone to talk to, they were all there.
That's great.
And that was a really big thing. So just go out, ask around, because there's people that are there, and that was especially people that you don't expect. Actually, my religion teacher this year, one of the most supportive teachers I've ever had.
That's incredible. It's always those that you don't expect that end up being like the ones that are amazing. Just amazing.
That's one of my. I don't know what I would have done without her this past year. Just because I've always just really not liked my religion classes. But she was wonderful, and so that's my first piece of advice, is to just ask around, because there are people that are going to support you, whether it's teachers, some people in administration, friends. Just ask around, ask your friends, because especially when you transfer, you don't know any of these people. But people who have had them for a year or 2 years, they know them.
I think that's some great advice.
My next piece is something I learned in high school, is advocate for yourself and others, and not have your parents fight every single battle.
Yes.
So I mean, in elementary school, anytime I had a problem, it's like, oh, Mom, I need you to call, like, oh, Mom, I need you to do this, I need you to do that. So when I got to high school, I was like, oh, I'm going to try to be a little more independent. And then freshman year came, and that didn't really happen. So then when I transferred schools, I felt like I grew up a lot from 15 to 16 with some stuff I went through. So I ended up just anything that came up, I was like, I can handle this. I was like, are you sure I can get involved? I'm like, no, I got this. And I really think that helps me grow as a person.
Absolutely.
Because you can't always have other people fight for you. So.
Yeah, I got to pause you there to tell a quick story. And I think you're on track to become a lawyer. That's my opinion. As a lawyer, I can see future lawyers, so, but when I was in when I was in kindergarten. So when I was in kindergarten, and this is a really random advocacy thing, but they took away the ketchup bottles. So like we couldn't have ketchup bottles to like at lunchtime. They were starting to only give out little ketchup packets. Well, I had like friends that like sat at our table with disabilities, and they were having trouble like opening the ketchup packets, and so they couldn't, and they refused to give them ketchup bottles so that they could put ketchup on their plates. And so like I went home and was like talking to my mom about this, and she's like, well, why don't you go say something? And so like one day she took me up to the principal, and she's like, now you're going to do it. And she's like, you don't have to be afraid of them. They put on pants just like you do. And so like that started my advocacy from kindergarten to now. And now I'm a lawyer, and that's what I do. So I think you're on track. That's all I got to say.
That's hysterical. I'm nowhere in my path is being a lawyer. I'm going to school to be a teacher.
Same thing, just different people. It's
yeah. But it's really gonna make me sound like a lawyer, not for my next part of everything. My final piece of advice is, what really helped me with getting the robe change policy at my school was the amount of research I did. And when you have a problem, it's really best, I found, to just look at the situation, evaluate everything that's going on, and then go to the people in charge. Because if I had just, shown up to my principal's office and been like, this is, making me mad, this is pissing me off, I would have gotten absolutely nowhere. And that was one thing that she commented on as to what really wanted them to change was how well, all of my information was put together. And I just, if you're going to fight a battle, you got to make sure you're actually prepared for it.
Yeah. And I think it's really cool, like what you did in terms of like, you put forth so many different points of view. And I think that's really important whenever advocating for any change, is the fact that even if you don't convince them on your point, or because of, whatever beliefs that they might have, a lot of times you can show them that it's just bad policy. It's not good for anybody.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that's what you did here. And really that's what promoted this change. So that's great. So what don'ts advice do you have for us?
I feel like one is, I saw this in one freshman at my school this year who, their first day of school, it wasn't even their first day of school, it was their orientation. They came and they automatically, a teacher would be like, oh, you must be this person. And they automatically slam with, no, that's not what I go by. No, this, and it's like,
yeah,
you got to slow down. I feel like for me, every time I've come out to people, because, I have a lot of family, so it's been a lot of times that I've had to come out to people or going somewhere and them thinking that they know that my old name is, my name still. And I've really found that, sometimes you do have to be aggressive. There's been times with my family that I've really had to be like, listen, you guys aren't trying. And, but when you first meet a person, especially when you're trans, they don't know.
Right.
And that's something that I had to learn, was they don't know automatically. They're not, especially at a Catholic school, when you're filling out information, there's no line that says preferred name, preferred pronouns. Like, it is, everything is what's on your legal documents. And that was really frustrating for me. I feel like growing up, just, I wanted to tell all these people, like, no, that's not what I go by, when I came out. But you just have to remember that, not everyone knows who I am automatically, and you need to show people in a way that's respectful, because if you want respect, you gotta be respectful. And that's something that I had to learn.
Oh, yeah. It's very, very true.
So, yeah. My next piece of advice is also for the trans community. I think the first couple months that I was out, I did struggle a bit with my family, because I was 15, I think, when I came out. So, 15 years of my life that my parents knew me as one thing, and I expected them to change overnight.
We all do that. Yeah.
Well, yeah. And I did not realize until during COVID, I did a lot of reflection over everything. I hadn't realized when you come out, it's not your individual transition, especially when you have parents that grew up in, my dad grew up in a very Catholic household, Catholic, Italian, went to church every single day and all of that. My mom grew up in Nebraska, so,
good old towns.
Not a lot of, yeah. So, it was an adjustment, but it was never like they were disrespectful about it and they'd slip up. And I have no memory of this just because I block out a lot of stuff from that time in my life where I gave my dad the silent treatment for like a month or two because he couldn't get my pronouns correct. And that was fault on mine because he was trying so hard. And I shut him down. Like I didn't even want to see that he was trying. I just saw that he would mess up.
Yeah.
And that's a really big piece of advice I have because it's not just your own transition, it's your family's. And unless they are doing it on purpose, which I have family members that really don't try. But I mean, when I first came out, I can't expect my parents who have probably never, I don't think they had ever been around someone who's trans before. They didn't really know much about it. So whereas me, I've been researching being trans since I figured out how a computer works.
Right. Yeah.
And so I think it was so important for me to realize, okay, this is not only me who is making a transition in their life. My parents had to coming along this journey with me, and that's a really big piece of advice.
Yeah, I think that's a very good piece of advice, especially for younger people, because we all do, even if you're not going through a trans, even if you're just LGBTQ across the board, we expect people to change overnight. We do, like, we're now this person that they didn't know or they didn't identify for, all of our lives. And we expect, well, we've come out to them. We did the hard part. But in all honesty, there's hard parts for everybody, even people that we, our family members and stuff like that, to come to terms with some of these things. So I think it's great advice. So.
Yeah. So my last piece of advice, I give this to anyone. You've probably had this on the podcast before, but this is for anyone who listens that might not even be part of the community, is to just go to therapy.
Yeah.
Have someone that you can talk to, because that therapy saved my life.
Yeah.
I started going to therapy when I was in 7th grade. I didn't even tell my therapist I was trans. Like, I didn't tell her until after I don't think I told her until a week before I told my parents.
Wow.
But after, therapy really is a lifesaver, and it's great to have a person that is supportive and is there specifically to help you thrive. That's a really great
So
thing.
who was the first person you told? Was it the therapist or was it others before then?
No, so one of the reasons I took so long to come out was because the first person I was going to tell was my aunt, but she passed away when I was in 5th grade.
Yeah.
And so she actually passed away a couple months after the incident with the girls' uniform. And it's really funny. There's a picture. It's the only picture of me in the yearbook besides my school photo, my 5th grade year. It's me in that outfit, and she's sitting behind me. And so it's like, it's one of the last photos I have with her. But she was my biggest support system in life, and I was going to come out to her in April.
Wow.
And she passed away in February. So it was, I don't know, losing her was like losing the one person I knew would support me through everything. So,
wow.
I hid it for a really long time, and then eventually, when I really started, after that I kind of started repressing. Yeah, I went really far into the closet and tried to not be trans, as I started dressing more feminine, which was horrible. And then I got into a really tough place and was in the hospital because of it. And I even had an opportunity there to come out. And they're like, "Do you identify as anything else?" And I still said no. It's like the reason that got me to this place, I still didn't want to admit it. And then I got out, and a month later, I told a friend of mine who I hadn't really been close to her for like a month or two, but she was still the first person I came out to. And then came out to someone a couple weeks after that, and then it just went from there. So,
and I do think that your experience is one that's similar to a lot of ours. You know, I had, you know, my first coming out went very, very poorly, and took me back in the closet for 2 years, you know? So like a lot of us go through that. If we've got a bad reaction, that first one, it really ruins years of our lives, you know? So I'm sorry you had to go through all that in the beginning, but I definitely think you saw that as you told more and more people and that were more accepting, it becomes easier, you know, over time. So, so we do another segment on this show called The Heap of Trouble. It's a time whenever you might have gotten yourself into a little bit of trouble based on being LGBTQ. Do you have a story for us today?
Yeah. So my sophomore year, I'm in my religion class with a teacher who, I don't know what he believed in. He was always all over the place with everything. I mean, the first day of class, he opened the Bible and said a quote about not having sex with animals. So, like, off the bat, he was just, you know, kind of wild. And so I think that it was my second or third month at this school, and we were talking about, you know, gay people and everything like that. And he said something really offensive. And I had always kept my mouth shut at every other topic because I have my mom's mouth and I get in trouble when I open it. So I opened my mouth, and then he, I don't even remember what the argument was. It was just this whole thing. And then he started talking about being trans. And so then I really got heated, and he said, I don't know, he said something about like, well, you're going to like mutilate your body. It goes against the Bible to like make changes to your body. And then I told him, yeah, then like, okay, tell that to all the teachers here who have tattoos, or, you know, I was going, and then he said something else, and I wish I could remember what it was, because this is when the argument got really heated. He's like, do you want to take this outside? And I stood up, and I said, yes, I do. And then he stopped talking.
Wow.
And he never brought it up until, so.
Wow. So the teacher was like, you want to take this outside? Wow. Oh my goodness.
He really did not expect me to want to keep going. And then the bell rang, and it was.
I don't know if this was before your time or not, but you definitely should have like taken a picture and put that like "Catch Me Outside." How about that meme?
Oh, yeah.
That's what I would have done.
Yeah.
Like that would have been all over the school. So that's awesome. I love that story.
That was, it was crazy. And then after that, I tried to be so nice, because I was just like, I just need to get through this year. But after, I just couldn't. Yeah. But then this past year, it was really weird. I'd pass him in the halls, and he'd be so nice to me. I was like, I'm really confused by what you believe. So I'd love to chat with him outside of a Catholic school, because I don't know where his head is at. My mom says he's got Napoleon syndrome because he's a really short man, and he needs to feel superior. So
it could be it. You never know. So that's awesome. Oh goodness, that is a great story. So tell us a little bit about where you're going for here. I know you said you want to become a teacher. What's the next steps in life for you?
I'm moving to college in August. I'm going to Southeast Missouri State. It's just a school 2 hours from where I live. And I'm really excited about it. They've got gender inclusive dorms on campus. So I'm going to be staying in a wing of a resident hall that has everyone in the community, like LGBT community, who don't feel comfortable rooming with other people. And so that was one reason I picked the school. Really glad a lot of schools are actually starting to have something like that. And so I'm going to study education, and with a minor in French, and then I'm going to go study abroad and live in France for a while. My parents aren't happy about that because they don't want me to leave.
We're happy about that. We're going to come see you in France, so just be ready for that.
Feel free to. Yeah. So
actually,
that's what I'm looking
I do think
to.
You brought up a good point that a lot of universities are becoming more gender inclusive. They've got gender inclusive halls and dorms and various things.
Yeah.
I know University of Louisville actually started that about the second year that I was there. and it was a big change at that moment, which kind of led Louisville to be one of the like premier LGBTQ schools in the South, because they were so inclusive on a lot of new types of things. So, I know too that you have been, because I watched your Instagram, and I love that you're doing this and you're kind of keeping people up with like the testosterone that you're taking, the voice changes. Yeah. Can you tell people, like, one, how that's affected you, and then two, where can people follow you and watch your story as you get a little older and stuff?
Yeah. So I am really lucky to live I'm in St. Louis, Missouri, where the only transgender center, I think out of my area of the Midwest, because you're in the Midwest as well, this is one of the only transgender centers is in St. Louis, and it's not even 15 minutes with the highway. So I'm really fortunate with that. I've been going there since April, my freshman year, and it was a journey to get on testosterone because I was not allowed to at a Catholic school. So I decided I will wait until 3 months before I graduate. And then I decided I can't wait that much longer. My mental health kind of depends on this. I had always heard from online, YouTube videos that testosterone saved people's lives. And, I was like, it'll make me feel a bit better. I went in April of my senior year to start talking about going on it. It might have been, I don't know, April of my junior year. And I was like, okay, I'm going to start working towards getting towards going on hormones. And then I went in December to talk to an endocrinologist, and they're like, we'll get your blood work done and you can start after you turn 18. Because then I didn't have to worry about getting a note from my therapist, because that would have been a lot of work for her. So then I had to wait until I turned 18, which was a couple more weeks. And then I had to wait for insurance to approve it. And then I went and got my blood work done. I had to wait for my blood work to get approved. And then I got the prescription written and went to Walgreens to pick it up. And there was a problem with the insurance again. So I had to wait an extra day to start. And so I was just like, of course, when I'm this close, another setback. So I ended up going on a Tuesday, January 11th. So almost 6 days after my birthday. And I went to pick up my testosterone. I came home, and the second I did my first shot, I felt like this huge weight was lifted off my shoulder.
It's great.
And I've been on it for 5 months as of Saturday, and I have never been happier, and it really has saved my life. So yeah, I've been posting about it on my social media. It's been great being on it. You see online that all the changes that happen, but then they happen to you, and it's like, oh my gosh. My voice is getting deeper, facial hair starting to grow, all these things. So that's been really great.
It's incredible.
And then as far as following my story, my Instagram is just Marcus_Macchi. So it's pretty easy to find me there. That's pretty much what all my social media is.
Sweet. And we will tag you as well, so people that follow us can definitely go and follow you. I know I've been following you for a while now, since the Harry Styles concert, and I've watched you over this past year, and it's been inspiring to me, everything that you're doing at such a young age. I think you've got an incredible future ahead of you. I think you're going to bring about a lot of change in a lot of people's lives. So I'm looking forward to seeing you over the next few years.
Thank you.
We do a final segment on this show called the Pot of Gold. Basically, it's a chance for you to ask me any question you want to ask, and then I will wrap it up with one final question to you.
All right. I was just since we talked about school and everything, what was it like for you, your school journey? Did you come out while you were in school, or? So
I actually, when I was in high school, I tried to come out, I tried to come out to one of my older brothers, and it did not go well. Went very, very poorly because I grew up in a missionary Baptist family. That brother is now a preacher of a missionary Baptist church. I was the only male in my family not to be a Baptist minister. So, needless to say, it did not go well. And he said some things that had me convinced that I was not actually gay, which was horrible logic, but it was just because I didn't know anything else. I'd never seen or talked to anyone really in the LGBTQ community about those things. I just knew what I was kind of going through in my head and dealing with a lot of it on my own. I came out when I was about 20 years old. So I waited until college. And part of that was whenever I got to college, I started seeing and talking to LGBTQ people. One of the first experiences I remember that was affirmative was I was a McConnell Scholar. Don't hold that against me, people out there. But I was a McConnell Scholar. I had this political program I was involved in. And on the first day of interviews, so I was this 18-year-old kid going through these really strenuous interviews, and they had this little outing. And one of the scholars that was there asked me, he's like, do you have a girlfriend or a boyfriend? So it was a straight up question of, do you have one or the other? It doesn't matter. Just what do you have? And that was the first time I was of course I was drawn back because I was like, oh, somebody's already figured me out, but that to me was one of the life-changing moments for me, because I realized there are people out there that don't care if I've got a girlfriend or a boyfriend. So that's kind of what led me down that path of, advocacy and LGBT. And I started doing more things for rural folk and rural kids, because that's what they need to hear, is there are people out there like us that are going to love them regardless, and then obviously I've gone into law since then, and I've done a lot for LGBT since then. I was, on the fairness campaign and various things that I've done. But it's a never ending process, right now.
Definitely.
More than ever, which will lead me into my pot of gold question. Right now, more than ever, we are having a lot of policy changes on transgender rights and transgender in schools. The ability to play sports in schools in various states, the ability to even say gay in most states, let alone trans. This is my pot of gold question for you. Obviously, you've already conquered one policy change. If there was one policy out there, or one thing that affects you in your day-to-day life or various things like that, what would be your next big advocacy? So what change would you want to make out there as your next goal?
So I feel like to a lot of people, this seems like a very small thing, small change. But something I have struggled with, more specifically since coming out and since starting testosterone, to where in public I'm being seen as a male way more often, I'm passing a lot more, is bathrooms. I really wish that more places just automatically had a gender neutral bathroom, or even if it's a single stall bathroom to where you only one person can be in the bathroom at a time. Because when I'm out in public, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And especially at my Catholic school, where, there was definitely not a gender neutral bathroom there. It was hard for me, but I luckily had a teacher who had keys to a faculty bathroom, so she let me use that one. But that was one thing that I'd really want to change, is just more gender neutral bathrooms, because it's when you're out for hours in a day, you can't just not go to the bathroom. And I feel like that for me would be really great.
One kind of quick follow-up, because you brought up a point that I'm not as familiar with, because I'm privileged in the sense that I'm going to go into the gender that I'm assigned, at birth. But how would you, out of 10 places that you visit in a day, how many of those do you actually have a gender neutral bathroom in? You know, are they in most convenience stores and various things today, or are they not?
I have found that big corporation stores like Target, they have like a family bathroom.
Okay.
Smaller places, not typically. But something that I found, I think that I got the information from my transgender clinic here, was a website, an app called, I think it's called Restroom Refuge, where you just put your location in and it gives you a list of gender neutral bathrooms in your area, which is great. But I don't know that many places.
What?
At my work, we have 2 bathrooms, one male, one female bathroom, but they're single stall, so I'm lucky enough that I don't really have to worry about that. At my other job, which is one of my dad's restaurants, they have gender neutral bathrooms. You know, you just one person goes in at a time and everything like that, and that's how it's been for years. But other than that, I really don't see it that often, which kind of sucks because you know, there's a lot of people out there that they don't feel safe using either or.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of where I am right now and have been for a while. Like my sophomore year, I went to a wedding and there was not a gender neutral bathroom. I was in, you know, dress pants and a dress shirt and everything like that. I was like, well, I can't go to the female restroom, but I'm also terrified to go into the male's restroom because it was with a side of the family that's would not have been very supportive. So like I had to have my dad come with me and stand guard at the door to make sure no one came in and everything. So it's very stressful when out in public.
Well, I appreciate you educating me on that because, like I said, that's something that I obviously don't run across, but is something that, you know, the more people out there that are informed, because you just informed me about some things I didn't know. And I'll actually, one of the things I will do is post a resource on our page with that app because I had never heard of that, but that's really an awesome thing for a resource. So thank you for that. All right. Well, it has been such a pleasure to have you on our show. It's been, like I said, it's been great watching you grow over the past year because I've been watching you. I know it's kind of creepy, this Weathering Rainbows podcast guy watching, you know, for your whole school year. But Amy told me how much fun she had with Harry Styles with you, and I was like, well, I feel left out, so I've clearly got to be friends with this person. So. But I do thank you for coming on our show, and thank you again for everything you've done at your school.
Thank you for having me.
So, thank you. See you. Well, folks, that's all the time we have for today. Don't forget to come on back now. I know we all love a little vibration, so if you are not already, go ahead and subscribe to this podcast. And we will surprise you on occasion with a new release vibration in your pocket. But in the meantime, if you find yourself alone or crossing new horizons along the Rainbow Trail, and you need a friend or even a laugh to get you through those dark and stormy nights, holler on out to us at www.weatheringrainbows.com, where you can find shelter in the blogs, videos, and other episodes that will hopefully keep you out of a whole heap of trouble. So until next time, y'all, giddy up, be true to yourself, and make the best of life. And wherever the wild tracks may lead you, may the rainbow always touch your shoulder.